But all this talk of Bank of Canada, Bank of Canada, Bank of Canada, like it has no impact on fixed rates at all. And people are waiting for this big headline. Now is the time to buy. Rates have dropped. Go, go, go. Like that's not going to exist. It's never going to happen. Like you have to analyze this with professionals, look at your own finances, and buy when it's the right time to buy.
You're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell. Let's see what's going on in the world of real estate today.
Okay, go.
Hello, and welcome back to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. My name is Paul Stevenson, mortgage agent, level 2, and I am joined, as always, by my esteemed colleagues and co-hosts, Greg Campbell, realtor extraordinaire at the Campbell-Maric Group, part of eXp Realty, and David Warren, mortgage agent level 2 and owner at Referral Mortgages. Gentlemen, it's May. It's Tuesday. New day, new me. How we doing? I feel great today.
New
so
day,
much more relaxed.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is a good change. I also think that the sunshine is a good change. The warm weather, sunshine, it really makes me question, why do we live where we live?
Yeah, you really notice it after a winter when you actually get 2 or 3 days of of consistent heat. You really feel different. Like you actually feel different.
Fair. It's not fair to live here in the winter. It's not fair to our bodies. I believe that, and I'm at a point now where something needs to change.
We're abusing ourselves by being in Canada.
Yeah, I wake up refreshed, workout, cold shower. I'm fine. Yes, let's do this. Just even a few weeks ago, I'm like,
Oh, and Dave's here.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah, so for all of our listeners, we decided a couple weeks ago that we're going to make a shift. We found that Mondays were a little hectic for all of us, obviously, in real estate. A lot of things happen over the weekends, so Monday mornings were always a little hectic, a little chaotic. So we've switched our recordings now to Tuesdays. So new episodes are going to be released Wednesdays at 10 instead of Tuesdays at 10. But before we get into the show, gentlemen, Dave, my favorite event of the year was last week on Thursday. You want to give us a quick summary of how that went? Because I think it was a pretty successful showing for Martini Madness.
Yeah, it was great. So last Thursday, we had Martini Madness in support of Crohn's and Colitis Canada. It was my 13th year organizing it. So been a long run of it. It was great. It was probably our best turnout yet. Definitely the most funds we've raised. We had over 400 people, raised over $100,000 for medical research. So it was a fantastic night. Good, for any listeners that came out, appreciate it. But yeah, lots of great sponsors, lots of great people out. It was a fun night. That's about it. Good, gorgeous weather. Couldn't have asked for a better night either.
Yeah, I had no idea that our producer Steve was actually doing kind of the videography. So I saw Steven. I was like, Steven, I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I just saw one of my friends, and she was like, hey, my mortgage broker is here. And he's like, oh, is it Paul? And he's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, me too. And I was like, yeah, it was awesome. So just bumping into clients, bumping into producers. It was awesome. It was a good time. But yeah, it was a really fun night. And yeah, really happy. That's awesome that you guys hit kind of a record number for fundraising. Lots of records being broken, gentlemen, in the real estate game. That's my segue for today.
Well, not so much, but whatever.
No records.
Not exactly.
Nothing was record numbers at all. There was 0 records over the weekend, but
none. I wanted to start off. The provinces have released their budgets, the provincial budgets for 2024. So I wanted to touch on Ontario's because it seemed relevant. So Ontario's budget, here they go. By 2031, Ontario hopes to build at least 1.5 million homes across the province. Much of its housing-related funding and its provincial budget is to help municipalities hit these targets. So in its 2024-25 budget, the provincial government promised $1 billion launch of the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, an initiative to help municipalities across Ontario build roads, water pipes, and other infrastructure so they can rapidly build housing. $200 million launch of the Housing Enabled Water Systems Fund, which is an initiative aimed at repairing drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure. Ontario is allowing all municipalities to impose a tax on vacant homes. Before this announcement, only Ottawa, Toronto, and Hamilton were allowed to do this. Ontario is removing the 8% portion of HST by developers on new purpose-built rental housing. Ontario will now allow municipalities to offer reduced municipal property tax rates on new residential rental properties. And Ontario is working with the construction sector, municipalities, and Indigenous communities on the use of modular construction and other innovative technologies so that more people can live in a home that they can afford. What do you guys think about that? We kind of touched on this, all kind of relevant, kind of similar to the federal budget. Greg, you were mentioning the 8% portion of HST is very...
Yeah, I think that's a great incentive. I don't know if it should be just for purpose-built rental housing. You know, I think they should help developers get some relief overall on top of all like the permits and time that they have to wait to build. So why should it only be for purpose-built rental housing? It's kind of like they're building a community where just you'll own nothing and be happy. What a surprise. So I don't like that because they're basically putting the citizens of Canada in a trajectory of buying rental housing because the developers are clearly going to build more rental housing based on that deduction of the HST.
Yeah, I think overall for what they're implementing will help better margins, like lower the cost for construction and everything that you just mentioned. Like even the lowering of the property tax rate is, I think, as an ongoing expense for that property. It's hard to say whether it will trickle down to lowering rents, but certainly will, make that a better argument that, new housing should be able to hit those lower thresholds and then kind of keep driving up because of the cost of building. I agree with Greg. I think certainly something needs to be addressed more so with also, purpose built for purchasing. Again, like going back to the at least like, focus just on first time home buyers, some maybe HST relief for first time home buyers or some of that nature. Right now, you get a $24,000 credit if you're moving in, but that's really it. Why not a higher percentage in that for first time home buyers, things like that, to incentivize for building or make it a lower cost. But I think everything's got to start somewhere.
1.5 million homes in 7 years.
It's not happening.
The math. 214,000 homes a year.
It's not happening.
In Ontario alone.
So that's 587 homes a day in Ontario.
They won't even do half of
that.
Yeah.
So those are the numbers. I mean, at 1.5, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that seems 7 years. They could probably do that. And then you break it down to what it actually requires. And I think when John was on last week, I'm interested. Did you guys get any, like John was mentioning about I think the most amount of homes built in any given year was like 200,000 or something. It was
that's in Canada.
Right.
Canada.
So so these are the numbers from 2011 to 2022. So in 2011 in Ontario, 67,821. Basically continued along that kind of going between 67,000 to 81,000. And there was a spike in 2021 and 2022 of 99 and 96,000 in Ontario. And that's housing construction starts in Ontario, peaked in 2021, while in 2019, there were roughly 69,000 new home starts. So
3 times
going back to your comments, Paul.
3 times the best year ever, every year for 7 years.
Yeah.
Possible.
No.
And the most new housing starts right now in Canada are for rentals. That's the other thing people are overlooking. And now they're incentivizing developers to build more rentals. So where do you think we're rentals? That's it. So out of that number, let's say they hit that target of 1.5 million, I would bet that 900,000 to 1 million of those would be rentals if they hit that target. That's my prediction anyway.
At least as of right now with how properties are being built. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And who is going to own these properties? Just the builders? Is it government funded, government owned? Is it
maybe
builder owned?
The government has their hands involved with some private contractors that are going to swoop in here and hire some.
Welcome to the Conspiracy Theorists podcast, everyone.
Yeah. Oh, let's go.
Let's get our tinfoil hats on.
Get them on.
That's an actual question. Like, if these are all going to be built as rentals, like, because I know there was those buildings that were built at Gloucester Center, Blair.
Yeah,
Gloucester
those
Center.
are great.
Those are excellent. And when they were building them, like, wow, that what an awesome place to buy. But then they were all rentals, right? Like the builder actually retained them, and they were all purpose-built rentals. So is it going to be something like that where it's just the builders that are retaining these
it's the
projects?
Same. It's the same as like all the building, like, you know, whether it be Claridge or Tamarack or any of them that are building right now in and around the city. It's the developer that holds on to it. The financing programs for them are like for the builders themselves to retain it, and they're typically under the CMHC MLI Select program,
the 50-year,
where they have to, you know, they're in for a period of time, whether it be under affordable housing, where they have to maintain a certain threshold, 30% of the units for 10 years at a certain, you know, median threshold of affordable housing, or other metrics like efficiency or accessibility. There's 3 components of that, but yeah, it's the developers that are holding them, building and holding.
Brazil does a lot of rental units. They have a pretty, they have a very, I don't know, I want to call it a very serious program, and like their property management and their screening is next level. Like it's not easy to get into rental at Brazil.
They've really put a big push on Brazil in Ottawa. They believe they've broken ground now. I think I saw at where the Greyhound bus station was. They finally actually started digging there. Wow. So that'll be a big build as well, right on the on-ramp to the highway. Great location.
Where was it recently? I was driving somewhere I hadn't been in some time, and I couldn't believe what they had thrown up so quickly. I'll have to think about it. It'll come to me before the end of the show, but you just saying that made me think of that. Like places that are just kind of torn down for a year, and then all of a sudden you go by
it's done.
Like a 40-story building. You're like, oh, they did develop. Perfect. So it can happen quickly. It's just a matter of who's doing it and what that project looks like. But that's interesting because, yeah, I mean, to your point, Greg, if these are all going to be purpose-built rentals, like, is it just a matter of homes just not being affordable anymore? Like the prices are just out of range for the majority of Canadians, that it just becomes all rentals, majority rentals.
Well, I got to say, the shift into the builders finally, like, remember, I think I said this last year, was at the beginning of last year. I said that one of my predictions was that the builders were going to start building multi-generational homes, like with in the basement. That is now a major thing in Ottawa. So there's four builders that are doing it right now. It's, oh my goodness, it's EQ, Claridge, Phoenix, and Metric. So they have projects all across the city that have suites in the basement, either 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. I think there's one that even has a 3 bedroom in the basement. So you can buy it and you can legally, like, you can rent that out if you want to, or you can move in your family. And they have some that are built side by side. Like it looks like one bungalow and there's one door, but then it goes into a couple of units when you get in with a shared garage. That would be more of like an in-law suite type of model. And then they have some, you know, two stories with, they almost look like 3 stories because the basement's kind of half in, half out, like a high ranch, so that you have those big windows and you don't feel like you're actually in a basement. Crazy designs. I love it. And I know that we're going to see more of that. So, I mean, if the goal is more rentals and then more of that, I think that's okay, because I do believe that a lot of families are now not considering the option of being able to afford, or they can't afford to put their loved ones into a retirement residence. And, you know, in most cases, you know, family members do not want to go into one. You know, I feel that families are just becoming closer because of the financial crunch that they have, which is not necessarily a bad thing, depending on how your relationship is with your family. But anyways, that's something to see. And if anyone out there has questions about that, we have everything about those builds. One of our agents, Venkat, is taking care of that right now, and he's already helping some people sort out.
Dave's agents as well, no?
And so what's that?
One of Dave's agents as well, no?
Oh yeah, the Venkat, yes, mortgages and real estate.
Yeah.
The interesting thing of those new builds with the suites is also from a qualifying perspective for buyers that are looking not necessarily for their family, but just to rent out those units. On a mortgage qualifying perspective, we can use 100% of those rents to add back to income to help you qualify for that property as well. So that can be a good way as well to offset some of that mortgage payment for people that are maybe looking and not wanting to stomach the, you know, $3,500, $4,000 mortgage payment. You know, you could look to a property like that where maybe half of it is being covered by the rents that you can generate on it as well.
Also, if it's part of your primary home, does that also still qualify for Airbnb?
I believe so.
Mhm.
Because I believe Airbnb now it has
But
to
I'm,
be your actual primary home, right? But if
Yeah.
it's part of your primary home, I think it qualifies.
yeah,
And the reason
I think you
thought of
cap
that
out at like 6 months or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, because when we went to the Centum conference in Toronto, Sandra and I stayed in it was a ridiculous neighborhood, but it was a basement unit of this beautiful single family home. And same thing, Greg, like did not feel like a basement unit at all, but like beautiful, had 2 washrooms, like excellent kitchen, 2 bedrooms, like it was amazing. It did not feel at all like you were in a basement. And it was in a beautiful neighborhood, a beautiful suite. And even like you said, for a family or a parents or grandparents or whoever to live in that basement seems much more practical than putting them into a retirement home now, which
Mhm.
my understanding, like retirement homes are increasingly more expensive. Like, every year they become more and more expensive. And if I remember correctly as well, I think it's actually most retirement homes are actually based on like a percentage of your income, right? Like assisted living and so on. It's based on like your pension and they take a percentage of it or so on. I guess there's different. I'm by no means an expert in retirement homes, but all this to say, I think it could possibly be feasible for a lot of people to have that sort of structure where you actually have a true in-law suite where your in-laws are actually living in your unit and have it purpose built that way. Who are the builders again, Greg? Can you mention them one more time?
EQ, Claridge, Metric, and Phoenix. Those are the
Hey,
ones
you mentioned that when
we
Brooke,
have all the packages on hand with us.
you mentioned that when Brooke and Cortez were on the show, and they said there was nothing really
No.
like that, or no builders at least focusing on that in Toronto, which was kind of surprising to hear because you think that would be somewhere where it'd be
Mhm.
prominent.
It's going to happen for sure.
Are you thinking of buying or selling a residential property? Relationships are at the heart of every real estate transaction. At Geltin Poirier Avocat Lawyers, we love to bring residential buyers, sellers, agents, lenders, mortgage brokers, and the law together to close the deal for you. For an effortless client experience that opens doors, call us at 613-744-4488 or visit our website at geltinpoirierlaw.ca. Let's get to the heart of your deal.
Are you trying to grow your mortgage business? Centum has the tools and support to help you take your business to the next level. Get access to everything from free unlimited custom marketing to daily direct pay. Find out what your business can do with Centum. Learn more at joincentum.ca.
So something that we talked about a couple weeks ago when Matt Hall was on, the financial planner, was, and big topic obviously coming to the budget, was the capital gains tax. Some interesting news this week, and this is terrible segue, but I'm doing it anyways, is that the capital gains change was not in the implementation bill, the budget implementation bill that was put forth by the finance minister in the House of Commons about a week ago. So it looks like the government's had enough of a pushback to rethink that capital gains component of how they want to implement it and how it's going to look. So clearly it wasn't taken very well by the public, it seems. And they're putting some more thought into it because they said they're still planning on moving forward, but that they basically are just reevaluating how to implement. So we'll see how that transpires and whether it does actually come to fruition, because a big component of the spending as well was being generated from that 19 billion in tax revenue, or supposed planned tax revenue from those capital gains over the 5 years. So, as of right now, that January 25th is not
June
kind of an implementation, or June 25th is not, really on the books anymore. So,
okay, I didn't see that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, I mean, I think that more will come to light this week as obviously the discussions around that implementation bill come to light, and obviously the pushback of how they're going to go forward. But, they reiterated that they're committed to the budget's planned June 25th implementation date. However, it wasn't in the bill that they just on April 30th that they proposed to the House of Commons. So unless it's put into a bill shortly and rush through, but it seems like right now that they're actually maybe looking at adjusting that. So we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah, or just eliminate it.
Well, then,
Yeah.
yeah, they need to get the money from somewhere. I mean, it's being created, so they gotta take it from somewhere, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
Everything will just be more expensive, more expensive. Speaking of more expensive, my segues are terrible today. I have another article, nothing to do with being expensive. Canadian Press had an article, majority of aspiring homeowners awaiting rate cuts before buying. This was a BMO survey. So it says the majority of Canadians aspiring to buy a home say they will push their plans to next year or later to wait for interest rates to drop, a new survey shows. Bank of Montreal says 72% of respondents hoping to buy a home will wait until borrowing costs fall, an increase of 4% compared with last year. The Bank Canada is widely expected to begin cutting its key lending rate in the second half of the year. BMO Capital Markets senior economist Robert Kovcic said this should pull some demand off the sidelines and firm up the housing market, but rates have a long way to fall still before affordability is restored to recent norms, he said in a release on Monday. Other financial concerns such as inflation and the high cost of living are also holding many back from buying homes. The survey of 2,500 respondents was conducted from February 28th to March 18th. I would say, I don't know about you guys, but like to me, the conversations I'm having with clients, the rates are no longer a sticker shock. Like telling people, oh, you're going to get a 4.99 rate or a 5.14 rate. Like everybody's like, oh, that's great. Like nobody's like, what? What? I thought I was gonna, like nobody's expecting 3.99 or 2.99 or 1.99. Like this is the rate. This is the market now, and people are still buying. And I know we're kind of flogging a dead horse here, but I feel like people that are waiting for those rates to drop are going to miss the boat. Like prices are going to go up. Like the prices are already going up. Rates are not moving. Rates have actually gone up slightly, and prices are still moving up. And as soon as rates come down, prices are just going to accelerate even faster. So like I'm not saying guaranteed the rates are going to come down, but all this talk of Bank of Canada, like it has no impact on fixed rates at all. And people are waiting for this big headline. Now is the time to buy. Rates have dropped. Go, go, go. Like that's not going to exist. It's never going to happen. Like you have to analyze this with professionals, look at your own finances and buy when it's the right time to buy. Like these sorts of surveys to me are ridiculous.
And they make people who may be ready to buy second guess themselves for whatever silly reason. It's absolutely horrible. We have a call today where we're going to be talking about how to address this when clients ask that. And my first question is going to be to clients, where are you hearing that it's a good idea to wait? And how many people did you hear it from? Like, what was your source of the information? Because I want to know where everyone is getting that information from, so like we can have a proper conversation about it to make them realize that it's not the right way to do it. It's actually the total backwards way of doing it, because it's like, what's affordability? So when the rates drop, what is the affordability then? It'll be different than it is today, and it'll be different further down the road. But the bottom line is, do you need a place to live? And are you ready to buy a home? It's the same question all the time.
And does the payment now fit your budget? And is home ownership now important to you? Or, and that's really it. Like, because again, rate you can get into for 2-3 years. You're not locking in for 30 years.
Yes.
You can reevaluate. I think the markets right now, I was reading over the weekend, a BNN article or Bloomberg article, that the markets have priced in a 71% odds that there will be a June decrease in rates from the Bank of Canada.
Quarter point.
I think it'll be certainly, and we've said it for a very long time that June is a possibility, but to that news article's point, if all of those people and respondents are waiting for prices to drop, or the news headlines say prices are drop, well, those news headlines might be coming June 10th when Bank of Canada, if they do drop, as the markets, like I said, 71% of economists, like bank and market economists, are expecting and pricing in that rate drop. If there's a headline that says exactly that, Bank of Canada decreases rates, and you've got all of those respondents waiting for that headline, it's going to be very interesting to see how things go. This past April, CTV had indicated that not already, but Prices were up 1.6% in April alone. So clearly, rates are continuing to go. And the number of sales were up almost 9% from April 2023. So there's 9% more houses being transacted, and the price is up 1.6% in that 1 month alone. So what's that going to look like if that headline, like those respondents are waiting for, ends up being?
And April's been one of the hottest months for the last 2 or 3 years for sales. So that's not a mild number. Like, the fact that it's actually up year over year is even more of a testament to how strong the market is to me right now, because I think the last 2 Aprils were the best months. Like, April was the best month from a price standpoint for the last 2 years.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to get into. I don't know if you guys saw, I did kind of a ridiculous story on my socials the other day. We were talking about November, how November was $585. You could have bought a home for $585, but you wanted to wait till spring when there was more opportunity, and maybe the rates would have come down. So the median price in November was $585, and the median price in April was $650. So that's a substantial loss in your purchasing power if you waited. And now let's say you're going to wait again. You know what? The prices are going to go down in the winter. Whoever's telling you not to buy in the winter is out of their minds. You might not find the perfect house, but you know what? Think about it this way. If you're buying in the winter, and historically you can save up to $100,000 on a property in the winter if you buy, like, from maybe mid-November till mid-January. If you can save $100,000 on a house, but you walk into a house and you say, this house doesn't have everything I need. Well, take that fucking $100,000 and put it into the house, and then you got the house of your dreams.
We got a way to do that too.
We got a way to do that. Paul and Dave can help you with that. Come on, man.
No, I think
Stop
what's going to be
following the crowd, everyone. Stop following the crowd, please.
I actually had a rate conversation with a client last week, and he's like, I'm really thinking about going variable. I'm like, oh yeah? I'm like, tell me, like, what's your thought process? He's like, well, I know the banks really want me to go fixed. And usually when they say that, it makes me want to do the complete opposite. And I was like, yes. I'm like, this man's using his head. This is exactly the right way to think. He's like, they're really pushing fixed. So I really want to go variable because I know there's a reason.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that he has no other insight other than I know they're probably trying to get me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get got. I'm not going to get got.
This is con. I'm being conned.
Yeah, he sniffed it out. He's like, I got to go variable. I think what's going to be most surprising is when all those people, when they read that headline in June, that Bank of Canada lowered rates, when they talk to their broker, their bank, and we want to go with a fixed rate. Like, oh, perfect. Rates haven't changed since February. Rates have been the same since February. They might actually go up next week. So let's lock that rate in for you. Like, what? I thought rates came down. Those will be, I think, a lot of surprised people when they realize that. I know we say it every week, so I apologize to everyone who listens to the show. This year's this rant about how the Bank of Canada doesn't influence fixed rates, but I think it's an unknown message. Like, I think the majority of Canadians are waiting for the Bank of Canada's announcement, thinking that this is going to somehow shift their fixed rate, which is the majority of Canadians. I think the last stat I read was 70%
price of the house they want right through the roof.
Yes, 70% of mortgage holders are fixed rate mortgage holders. So, 7 out of 10 people are going to the fixed rate. So 70% of people buying their house, it's not going to have any impact. The Bank of Canada's rate announcement.
No.
For that guy I talked to last week, he's going to be very happy.
Into boots on the ground stories from last week. So we had a exceptional week, and it was a lot of very interesting scenarios. Some stuff still in progress. Many different types of buyers, different types of sellers, different products. I've got one. I'll make this as quick as possible, but this is a lesson for first time, newer agents that have maybe not transacted, don't understand signing a buyer representation agreement upon submitting an offer. But we had a property on the market, and it was on for 1 day. Luca had been speaking with these gentlemen substantially about the property. Now he said, in this situation, if you don't want to, they didn't want to work with a buyer agent. They wanted to work with the listing agent. They refused to find somebody else. And he said, okay, well, listen, if you want to do this with me, you have to sign a multiple representation agreement. and we'll sign it just for this property only. I'll do whatever you ask me to do, but you know, there's only certain duties that I have to my client, my seller, and to you guys. So they refuse. They won't sell it. They're like, no, we're not signing any type of agreement with an agent. And he's like, well, it's only for this property. I'm not trying to, like, if it doesn't go through, I'm not trying to lock you into it to anything, because I don't know you guys. So they're like, no, we're not going to sign it. Comes back with another agent, brand new agent. We looked up. He had no purchases under his belt, and it was kind of like, we knew that these guys had found this guy because he would work on this substantially priced property at $950,000 without a buyer representation agreement, which, you know, legally and ethically you're not supposed to do. When you submit the paperwork for a transaction, you should have that agreement signed. It can cause you a lot of trouble later. So anyways, we just assumed that he didn't have it signed. Now the transaction, the negotiation was okay initially. There was 2 offers. They ended up getting it. They did their inspection. The inspection came back with all these things. Most of it was covered by Tarion. There was a few other items. The seller agreed to do it all, but they kept coming back saying that they wanted $10,000 off. They wanted a price reduction, everything. And we're like, well, you told us all the things that you wanted. We've agreed to do mostly all of them. So why is this arbitrary $10,000 number? Where's it coming from? Like, you guys you want a reduction? Well, you're not getting it. You know, we have a backup offer ready to go. Take it or leave it. So the next day, then this is the part that I don't know the full story about it, but I guess there was another, while we were waiting to hear them, there was another property that came up on the market. Apparently they had gone to see it, and I think they had submitted another offer on it with another agent while ours was still conditional.
A different agent?
A different agent. Yeah. And so we heard about it. And again, I wish I had all the details, because I know this is an exciting story, but I'm not sure of all the details of how we got the information, but it's because it was in the neighborhood. And I think Luca was speaking with the agent. Anyways, it was the same guys with another agent, clearly no buyer rep sign. And then we asked the agent, did you have one signed? He didn't. Regardless, that didn't happen. I mean, they could have been screwed, or we could have been screwed, because they would have walked away. And then the young agent would have had no buyer rep sign. He wouldn't have got his commission for all his work. And he did a lot of work with these guys. And then, so anyways, that didn't go through. And that one went to another offer, and then they waived their conditions on ours. So it's a good lesson, I think, for new agents, just to really be patient and do things the right way, because that could have caused a lot of problems for that guy one way or another, right? It's for all the work that was done. But regardless, we got the deal done. We were happy with it. He was happy. Apparently the buyers are very happy. So just something to watch out for if you're a new agent. Make sure that if you don't get a buyer rep signed right away, make sure that you have something signed when you submit the offer, and when you send everything for signatures, put that first in the signature schedule to make sure that they're locked in, even if it's only just for that property and not something else, because you got to protect yourself for your time and your commission.
So it ended with everyone happy.
It did end up with everyone happy, and it was a great deal. The seller was happy. Buyers were assuming we're happy. The agents were happy. We're all happy. We're dancing around.
You know what can make us happier?
Mood boosts?
Some mood boosts before we
Great.
go. What do you think?
Hold on. I want to read you guys something quickly.
Sure.
Because this is Lisa Rich Johnson sent me a message. Listen to your podcast weekly, newbie realtor, and it's a great place to get an overall picture of the Ottawa market. Thanks for the content, I replied. And then she followed up with, it's a great source of info. I share it with colleagues and clients. We all need to educate ourselves. This is a great summary for the Ottawa market. Hope to meet you on the other side of a deal someday. It's great.
I actually had, on that same token, I had a client that referred me to their realtor. Their realtor connected with me and said, wow, Paul, this is awesome. I listen to your show every week. Like, was hoping we'd connect at some point. And actually said that it's because he works on his own. He doesn't work in an office. He said it's basically his go-to for,
amazing.
That's what he stays up to date on the market from listening to the show. He gets both sides of the aisle and stays up to date. So shout out to him.
Well, we're here to educate the people.
We're here to educate. I got one more shout out. Shout out to whoever left a great review for me on Reddit, because I got a client out of it. And she called me. She's like, yeah, I read great comments about you on Reddit. And I was like, wow, who did that? Whoever's listening out there, if you left some great comments, thank you. Feel free to reach out. I will take you to lunch.
And if you're bored, check out the not so great comments on Reddit of the podcast. Also hilarious.
Oh, yeah. What's the Ottawa Parasite podcast?
Parasite. Yeah, the Parasite podcast.
Yeah.
Check that one out.
All right. So I got 3 mood boosts today. Number 1, gentlemen, why don't phones ever go hungry? Because they got plenty of apps to choose from. And number 2, people are usually shocked that I have a police record, but I just love their greatest hits. And I used this one many years ago, but it's one of my favorites. Why do cows have hooves and not feet? Because they lack toes.
No. Wow. That one's kind of intelligent.
Very clever.
That one's a very clever.
That one slaps. That one slaps.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Wednesdays, 10 a.m. now. Wednesdays, 10 a.m. And a shout out to our sponsors, Gertin Poirier, Avocat Lawyers, Natalie and Michelle, amazing real estate lawyers, and Centum Financial. That's the network that Dave and I are agents under. They're a national network, over 2,000 agents across the country. Amazing network for mortgage agents. And they are our newest sponsor. Shout out to Centum. Shout out to Gertin Poirier, Avocat Lawyers. And shout out to all of our listeners. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Gentlemen, have an awesome week.
I want
so much better on Tuesdays.
I want feedback from the listeners about how the vibe was with the day change today. Tell us if we're better or not. I feel like
no one's listening by now. They're all gone. They're all gone.
Vibe check. I'm out. Deuces.
Deuces.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe because we'd really like that.